Welcome everyone to this live demo and Q&A session in preparation for the 2022 group run through of Foundations. It's absolutely wonderful to see everyone in the chat, people from all over the world. If you haven't already, please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And welcome also to everyone who is watching the replay. Today, I'm going to be sharing two essential techniques for sketching anything, whether at home or out on location, and I will be doing a demo of some objects on my desk and a preview of the foundations. Let's just kick it off straight away with a question for you to answer, which is, I just want to know, how long have you been sketching? Has it been a couple of months, a couple of years, a decade or so? And whether you consider yourself a beginner, just so that I've got a bit of an idea of, who we've got in the chat. And very special welcome if this is your first Sketching Now live stream. We've got a very, very wonderful community that hang out with me every week during a group run through of my courses that are all saying hello to each other, and the chat is probably going to be a little crazy today. So we also have Chantal Vincent in the chat, so she's here to help out. If you have any questions for me, please write questions in caps at the beginning, just so it's easier for us to find it, because the chat is probably going to go pretty quickly today. And also there's a bit of a delay between when I say something and when you hear me say it. So please just hang in there. Also, there's a whole heap of links in the description below if we're talking about something, and there's a link down there. And wow, the chat is going really quickly. And the last bit of housekeeping is the fact that if there's anything happen with the internet here, which hopefully will not happen, just hang in the chat, and I'll be back onto the same stream as much as possible. And the chat is just going crazy, but we've got some total beginners, and we've got 2 years, we've got 1.5 years, 12 years, a few months beginners. Okay, so off and on for 10 years, we've got a huge range of people from around the world, and also a lot of beginners and people with years, decades. Is there someone that's had decades? 10 plus. Okay. Is someone now? Okay. So, yes, Susie Baker says always learning. That's me. And so one of the things that I always say at the beginning of any course or face-to-face workshop is that we're all at different stages of our journey. We share, but we don't compare. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be sharing some of the theory from the beginning of the Foundations course. So we're going to start right at the basics. So Foundations is a foundational course that contains all the essential skills that you need to start sketching objects at home and out on location. But it's also a really good place to go in order to brush up on the core skills and push your sketching to the next level. So it's very comprehensive and systematic, and each lesson builds on the previous. So I'm going to be giving you a bit of a preview of that, and I was talking about two essential skills. So let me just see, have I covered all of the basic things I'm supposed to do? So I've got things here, and I've got a second screen over here. So oh, it's so amazing to see you all in the chat. Lovely to see you here. Let me just get straight into it. I've got about 45 minutes of prepared content, and then open it up for a Q&A session. We can talk about foundations, group run-throughs, and all the rest. So if you've got any random general questions, if you can hold off to the end of my demos, that would be great. But I think it's time for me just to get going. This chat's going to be fun today, isn't it? So amazing to see you all. So, and here I go. I've just realized that in front of me, I don't have my pen. Okay, so I promise I'm going to be talking about two essential skills. So those of you who have done foundations before will probably guess what it is. So we're going to be looking at edges and shapes. and we want to be able to see the world in terms of edges and shapes. And that's what I believe is the two most important skills that you need to have before you start sketching anything, or as you learn and progress and start sketching things. And as I said, I'm going to be sharing from the theory of the Foundations Lesson 2 and 3. So some of you will know this yellow chair. So this is direct, some of the theory section direct out of the course. So, and this is like really, really core basic stuff. So for some of you, just hold on. I'll get more complex and more advanced as we go through this live stream. So whenever we go through the world as a child, what babies, we show them books with chairs and everything. So when we see an image, we go, oh, this is a chair, this is a yellow chair, and we think yellow, we think primary yellow. We see a chair, we think of this symbol in our head, and we also think, oh, realize it's on green grass. And then when we look at it a little bit more carefully, you go, hey, this looks like a small children's school chair, and in fact it is. And so we go through life recognizing all these things that we see, and we have this symbol in our head that says this is a chair. Even though we can't see all of the fourth leg, we know that it's there. So what happens when we start sketching is this innate ability to be able to analyze what we see, which is very, very clever, and what I call the object brain, is so strong that we start drawing the symbol in our head, not actually what we see. And so as a result, we draw lines that are going up when in fact they're going down. We can see much more of the seat in this sketch than that. It looks like we're a bird in the air, and when we get to some point such as this back leg, we realize things aren't lining up and we have a panic attack. Okay, so how many people can relate to this? Okay, so when we start sketching, we have to turn off this object brain, and we have to turn on this different part of our brain, the visual brain, and we have to start seeing the world differently. And how do you see? So I liked the term visual thinking. So there's three different ways that I think when I'm sketching, and I see the world. And these are the three core skills to develop. And this is like right at the beginning of Foundations. And those of you who've done some of my other courses, this is the foundation of all my other courses at the moment. We're currently doing buildings right at the moment, December 2021, and we're focusing a lot on volumes. I'm not going to be talking about that. So today we're just going to be focusing on what I call feeling edges and abstracting shapes. And if you can start to see the world in terms of edges and shapes, then everything becomes much easier to sketch. Okay. Object brain is so strong, yes, and I will tell you that every time I sketch, I have to battle the object brain. Obviously, the battle becomes easier, but it's still there. Okay, Heather, hello, yellow chair. You've seen that chair a lot, haven't you? Okay, so the yellow chair is a bit of a joke. Every face-to-face workshop, the yellow chair comes out. Okay, so as I've said, we've got to stop thinking chair and we've got to start thinking edges. So as we start drawing, instead of thinking, oh, this is a chair back, we've just got to think, how long is this line? What angle is it going? How does it relate to what's before it? So we're really focusing in and thinking one edge at a time. And the other thing that's really important is we need to train our eye-hand coordination. So this is the fact that if we can train our eye to track along an edge consistently and not kind of jump around, and then we get a hand to move in sync with it, then we can just basically look over an object and our hand can move in sync. And this can make like working out what angles things are going in much easier. And it's a matter of just training this coordination. And like I like saying, if our eye-hand coordination was really, really good, we could draw anything without really looking at the page. So it's something that is a skill that we build on. And Karen's saying getting angles right is hard. And we have lots in the course about that as well. So I think this concept of eye-hand coordination, and I'll be doing a demo of that very shortly, is a very tactile feeling, because I feel like as my eye is tracing around a shape, my hand is moving in sync with my eye, and it feels almost as though the I'm touching the object with my eye and my hand. And so I really, I feel like it's a very personal, very tactile response. And another part of edges is to think about if there's an important edge that is going to set out the whole thing. So in the chair, maybe it is this back edge and the front edge, and that will get the height and the width. Or maybe it's the main edge here. So this is something that this is like a more developed skill for those of you who are what I call seasoned sketchers, that once you start getting a little bit more experience with sketching, you look for these important edges, you concentrate energy on getting those ones on the page kind of correct, and then that frees it up for the rest of it. Okay, so that's just very brief edges. Now, shapes. Shapes are things that I have an architectural background, and so I didn't really understand seeing the world as shapes. And for me, when I started, I went, wow, this is so weird. But more and more over the years, I've become more and more addicted to shapes. And so the idea of shapes is, I call it abstracting shapes. So because like edges is like almost like feeling the build, feeling the chair or the subject. Abstracting shapes is when we kind of sit back and we squint, and as we squint, all of the different details all merge together. And so when I look at this chair, I think this whole chair is just one big yellow blob. It's a complicated yellow blob, but it is just a blob. And if I think about that and just draw the shape, it's amazing how accurate that can be. And as I'll explain, it can be a really great way of seeing things that are tricky, because when you draw, you have a tendency to think too much and use the object brain. So the paint and abstracting shapes is a really good way to use your visual brain more. Okay, so there's quite a lot of people in the chat that are doing foundations, and that's fantastic. Alexandra, you took it early in this year, best and most complete class ever. Thank you. All of those stars, that's wonderful. Okay, so the next thing that when we're looking at shapes is sometimes the shape can be quite complicated. So like under here, under the legs is actually pretty tricky. So if we actually switch our brain to look at the grass, which is what you call the negative shape, so it's the in-between shapes, sometimes they can be much simpler. You can see here there's a simple triangle, and these shapes are actually much easier to see as another triangle than the positive. So negative is not a bad thing, as in being negative. It's just the inverse of what you normally look at. And then the other thing about shapes, which I love a lot too, is you go, well, look, this chair doesn't look like that. That looks flat. So if we just focus on the fact that in the yellow, there's some yellow that's lighter than others, and this was on an overcast day, so we don't have like strong shadows. But if I just think about adding over the top of this shape the areas that are darker, then all of a sudden I have this amazing three-dimensional form, and it looks three-dimensional, looks like you can sit on it. And I didn't draw any part of the chair at all. I wasn't drawing chair, I was just drawing an overall shape and then a dark shape. And those of you who've done a number of my Sketching Now courses know that I love this. I love starting with the dark shape. The shadow shapes, in fact, that's what we're doing in buildings right at the moment. So it's nice tie-in, and everything builds over this. Okay, so you all following along? I'm about to start sketching any minute now. Okay, but I hope that you can understand that these things, a lot of you have heard these before, and for some of you it might be new, but these are the two core things. So just to recap on what I've been saying, we need to see the world in terms of edges and shapes. When we come to edges, we see objects in terms of edges, one edge at a time. We try to train our eye-hand coordination, and that's like an ongoing thing. And even someone more experienced as me, if I haven't been sketching for a while or sketching consistently, I have to warm up. when I'm traveling and I'm sketching, you know, all day, every day type of thing, my eye-hand coordination, I notice that it's really switched on. I can look at complex things and just do a really, really simple line drawing, and it will be really pretty accurate because my eye-hand coordination is just so tuned and practiced. And then also, as a more, you know, more developed thing, we then start looking for important edges. When it comes to shapes, we combine similar colors into simple shapes. This is so important when we go out on location. Like for a chair, it's not such a big deal, but when we go out and we're trying to do a complex street scene, simplifying the shapes, absolutely important. We use negative shapes, which is great for tricky bits, and that we start seeing shadow shapes, of what I call mapping light and dark. Barbara says, use these ideas sketching a car yesterday. And it looked like a car. Fantastic. That's the thing. It's kind of like, yeah, like magic. And it's really fun, and it is very different from the way you normally think. And I mix up thinking in edges, shapes, and volumes in the one sketch. Even though I might start with shapes or I might start with line, I'm always thinking of them. Okay, now I've got to set up for this. So any questions going through? Very chatty. Oops, my camera is not super stable today. I'm going to be careful. So what I've got, and this is not super ideal, is I have some objects that were on my desk, and I've taken a photo, and I tried to get the photo as much as I possibly could, but I'm actually going to draw from observation. So I've got the objects here, and like I love drawing random objects on my desk because it kind of tells a story. So there's all these objects have some relevance at the moment. The white dots I use on my Greenwood journal. I'm doing lots of watercolor pencil at the moment. So these are some Derwent ink tints. I've got a new color in my Faber-Castell sharpener, and for some reason I've just got a whiteout pen because it's the same color. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is, this is where the tricky bits are, is trying to get a view of this. Now you can't see, but the objects are there. That's kind of similar to the photo, but this photo is very distorted, especially when it comes to the box. So that might have to do, let me just see. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why I don't recommend you sketching from photos as a general rule, particularly for objects on the desk, because well, it's so much more fun to sketch. You get more practice of the fact that every time you look at it, you head slightly different position, and that's part of the fun. Anyway, okay, so if we start using our object brain and we just draw one thing after the other, it'll look okay, but we might find that when we start looking more carefully that there's a lot of things that you know are quite right. Maybe the angle of the sharpener, the angle of the box, how much of this side of the box we can see. You can see this is really long, but in the photo and also in my view, it's very what we call foreshortened. Can't see very much of it. And there's a really big gap between the pencils and the whiteout pen. The length of the pencils, are the pencils too short, too long? Does the view look more aerial than what I'm looking at? Although what I'm looking at is a fairly strong aerial view. And are the objects more spread out as well? So I can see that the gap between the top of the box and the whiteout pencil feels a lot more spread out. Okay, so question. Okay, is shape just separating out color shapes? The shapes are, I'll be talking about all three of them. Working with shapes is what I was just talking about with this, which is combining things that are the similar color into one shape. So simplifying, using negative shapes and using shadow shapes. Okay, so I'm going to move this up. Can you see this now? I'll get my sketchbook out. start drawing. Okay, so move that pile over. How's that? I'm going to begin by doing a blind contour in order to warm up because it's kind of like a lot happening in the chat. Yeah, lots of stuff happening, like comments and everything happening. Looking at the shapes at the beginning is the way of simplifying the complexity. Yes, that's right. Makes me feel like I'm learning them, so worthwhile to improve and help. Yes, that, okay, so Anonymous, which is Adeline, is saying that these when you start learning to draw, it's not just about talent. They're very learnable skills. They're things, they're training your brain to see things differently. Okay, so I'm going to just do a blind contour. And what's really fun about this blind contour is I can't look this way, because if I look this way, I can see my page. So what I'm just going to do as a warm-up is start drawing, looking at the objects on the page. This box is never going to line up with how you're seeing it in the photo, and there's a bit of a shadow there as well. But okay, enough sketching. Enough talking. I need to start sketching. So here we go. Blind contours. Do you like doing blind contours? Tell me yes or no in the chat while I'm doing this. Okay, so where am I going to start? I'm going to start with the box because that's in front of me. And what I'm trying to do is run my eye along the edges. And as I'm running the line along, my hand is moving in sync. I'm not allowed to take my pen off the page. I'm also not allowed to look at the page. And, you know, there's a lot happening at the moment. So this is a good way for me to warm up. I'm going to go in and out, then backtrack. And I'm just going to go quiet. And I'll try and go quiet. One of the things about doing contour drawings is finding what pace works the best for you. I can see the chat going, but I have no idea where I am. I'm here now. Okay, this is just good. It's helping me calm down a little bit. And this is really the main idea behind a blind contour, is really just to help you warm up and get that eye and hand working in sync. And I can see the chat out of the corner of my eye is going crazy. There we go, finished. Okay, so that was good. Okay, absolutely beautiful. You avoid blind contours, but you shouldn't. Okay, I think a lot of people have a really negative attitude from a blind contour because they expect somehow it to work up perfectly. It's the base idea of the blind contour is to really warm up and to focus on getting that eye-hand coordination going. So what I can see here, obviously there's kind of a bit of overlap, but in the main, if your eye-hand coordination is going along quite well, the angles between things should be pretty right. And I'm like, I've got to say, this box is very different from the box that I'm looking at, but I'm like pretty happy with that. So we've got more yes. Okay, they loosen me up and make me laugh. Okay, good. Okay, but they're fun because they're always wonky. And look, one of my favorite uses of blind contours is when I'm sketching people. So it's a very fun way of actually, if I'm drawing someone and not really comfortable that I attempt to draw them, I just do a blind contour. And it's amazing how much it looks like them, or it prompts me that it's them. Someone says, blind contour portraits are so stylish. Yes. Okay, here we go. Okay, you're thinking the same as me. Okay, so first warm-up sketch. Okay, like Picasso, exactly. So next one. What I'm going to do for the next one, I could do a normal contour drawing where I do actually look at the page and get it more accurately, but that's something we do inside the course. So what I'm going to do is going to jump to kind of what we look at in lesson 4 and 5, which is the idea of pencil setup and whether to draw a couple of lines, which I would say is the important lines, the important edges in pencil first. So let's just see in the chat, are you someone that likes putting a few pencil lines down first before you go to ink? Or are you one of these people that says, no, absolutely, you should never put pencil down? It can be quite a controversial topic. So there's a lot of very strong ink-only people out there. And this is something we talk about inside Foundations. I don't say there's only one way. We actually discuss and explore the pros and cons of both. So do you like pencil? I'm actually using a brown ochre Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer as my setup lines, which I used to use a lot of. Yes, so blind contours are not about the end result, but about the brain exercise. Yes, I believe, but of course the end result is super cool as well. So, but if you're someone that gets discouraged by the end result, it's definitely not about the end result. And it's all about really focusing on training your eye-hand coordination. Okay, so yes, sometimes a little pencil, usually not, pencil first. It makes me obsess about getting things right. Okay, that's one of the issues with too much pencil. And so pencil has to be what I call minimal setup. For confidence, yeah, okay, so good. We've got a fair few pencil people here. There's some people who would never mix. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so depends on what I'm drawing. Yes, that would characterize me. If it's a really complex building, I often draw a bit of pencil, or I actually use watercolor for setup sometimes as well. So the question, you still use feeling edges to sketch seriously when you're looking at my page? Yes, totally as well. So the blind contour is just the exercise when you let me just quickly do a contour drawing. So I'll just do a little bit. So a contour drawing is a more serious sketch, and I am looking at the page. So I'm using the same things, but every time I do a line, I am looking at the page, looking at my object and going down, but I'm not taking the pen off the page, and I'm thinking about where this pencil is coming through and going up and then across, and then I work out the pencil sharpener comes here and across like this. So I'm doing some lines blind, but I'm also looking at the page at the same time. Okay, so watercolor pencil is hard to erase. Yeah, well, I don't erase it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now for this one, just over the top, is now think about what I think is the important edge, and I've just realized, is this relationship between the box and the sharpener. I feel like the pencils can come behind, but the most critical relationship is to get that box and the sharpener on. So that's what I'm going to focus on with my pencil. So once again, I'm using the same skills. I'm just letting my pencil come off the top, and so I'm going to draw heavier than I normally would, just so that you can more clearly see it. Okay, so this angle coming through here is hard. As you can see, it's very different from the photo. Something funny is happening with these angles. Okay. It's very hard to concentrate on angles when you're talking, watching, and doing live streams as well. So this is one of the things as well. When you're actually sketching, you should be having this internal conversation with yourself about, okay, so what's important is where that connecting point. You can see here on the photo, that connecting point is actually up here for me. It's a little bit down there. And then the other side of the sharpener is just here, but in the photo it's up there. So I'm looking very much more carefully now at those relationships between the different objects, and then I'm looking at where this intersects and making sure that comes in. I can just see a little bit of a crack there, and then there's a curve, and I feel like that is the most important relationship of the most important edges. So I haven't drawn a lot of edges. I've taken my time, and I'm not erasing. If I think I don't quite like the lines. I have this thing that I can fix it when I come with ink, okay? And then we come across through here, and these make sure these pencils. I'm also not worrying about the kind of. Okay, so to draw the pencils, I might have to rotate my book so that I can draw a straight line. And this is one of the, actually, I am talking about constructing volumes a little bit. I'm going to draw these pencils. Do I think that they're roughly the right? And now I'm actually going to look at the negative shape of the table underneath. So I've got 3 pencils that are going 1, 2, 3 like this. And then to get the wide out pen, it's a little bit, oh, my pencils are rolling away. It's, I just, use some connecting points for that going up and across. And maybe now relate the box to where that is, something like this, and so forth, okay? And that's my pencil line through here. And there's a lot of chat in a lot of conversation in the chat about rubbing out pencil lines and everything. I like them in there. I like them, and it's one of the things I talk about. So they kind of give an extra layer and they tell a story of my sketch. So now I've got that. I don't need to do anything more. I can fill in the pencils myself. I can fill in the inside of this box. So I go along here and actually, maybe I haven't got the proportion of the box quite right. I'm going to adjust this on the fly, just like this. And then I have confidence that these lines, I can draw these lines without drawing pencil, okay? So that still gives you a degree of energy to your lines because you're not completely tracing over your pencil lines. You use your pencil lines to work out what the most important edges are. And I kind of jump between both of them. But anyway, this is a limitation of doing a live stream, okay, through there and so forth. But I actually think I need to get onto paint because we're going to run out of time. As always, so much there. Ink only forces you to make a decision and to think more before committing to a line. So there are a lot of advantages of ink only, and I do definitely like working that way as well. And as I said, in the foundation course, we look at a whole lot of different ways of doing it and experiment with each way so that you can work out what works best for you at the time. And when you're beginning, if you're someone that fusses with pencil, I do recommend that you go and do ink only for a while because it will really, as you say, get over that fear of having to get everything perfect. And lots of okay, let me do some paint. Okay, so now I'm going to do a painted version of this. And what I'm going to be using is, so some people are asking about this that was on the thumbnail. So in the foundations course, and I'll talk about the materials list a little bit at the end, I use only 6 color paints. And these 6 colors are actually the 6 colors that Daniel Smith put together as a sketch kit. So this is these 6 colors, which there's a link to materials list so you can work out, see the exact listing of those 6 colors. And it's inside this tiny little portable painter micro palette. Okay, so once again, there's a link to that in the description. And so I'm going to use the ultramarine blue in this palette because my actually everyday palette has schminky French ultramarine, and I want to use the Daniel Smith. I'm also going to be just doing this demo using my dagger brush. We'll talk about dagger brushes at the end, just because that's what I use all the time. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing, the chat's pretty active. I'm going to mix up. I'm going to mix in my metal palette because I much prefer that. mix up a lot of paint and probably not enough. But anyway, here we go. Just pure. Look how much paint I'm picking up. That's not going to be enough, but that'll start. That'll do to starters. Okay, Chantal's just added the link, and so what I'm going to do is this is not all the one blue shape because the whiteout pen is separated, but it's two shapes, two blue shapes. So I'm going to start doing the same thing and see how this is going to use my brain in a different way. For this particular exercise, I am not going to bother about having, like, I'm not going to stress about making a beautiful watercolor wash because I'm really concentrating on merging different elements together into the one shape. So I think, is that long enough? No, it's not. I'm going to come and maybe I've made it too long now. Okay, so this is one of the great things about shapes is that while the paint is wet on the page, you can adjust it a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to come through here. Oh, I'm actually confusing myself. I'm looking at the photo now. Back to reality. Okay, so now this is tricky because I can't actually see, I can't paint that because there's no blue there. So I'm going to have to relate to, so what I'm thinking about is how does this edge relate to this? So it's forcing me to think about what I'm sketching in a different way. I come through here. So this paint shape might dry a little bit inconsistent, but that's all right. Okay, now I'll move to the sharpener, and it actually comes from somewhere through here. For me, it comes something like this. So that's all merging in as the one shape, okay, because it's all blue, so I'm doing just the blue areas. Is this making sense? No problems if you're joining late. If you are joining late, I am going through the importance of seeing objects as edges, and now I'm doing shapes, and I'm tracking through and trying to do one blue shape for these various objects. Okay, so I could do all of this blue, but one of them's longer. I could do this all the same. Look at that. It's very weird, isn't it? But it really gets your brain to think about things in a different way. So here we go. So have you ever started a sketch just with shapes? Now I can see that Kamal there is sketching along with me. I do recommend that you actually get your own objects and try to do this after the live stream. Maybe put the replay on in the background so you can hear me chatting away, and then use your own objects. And if you can find some objects that are the similar color and like overlap them like this, that's when you get the most out of this exercise. And then that's something like that. Okay, done. So this now looks very weird, okay, doesn't it? But I basically pulled these all together as the one shape, and I could then start to develop the sketch in a number of ways. I could wait for this to fully dry and then come and add the other colors and keep going with direct watercolor. And in fact, I've got a step-by-step to show you later. I could also do some ink. So earlier I did. Where is this? So this is the version I did earlier this week. So you can see how I then came and added extra color, and I added a few ink lines, but not ink lines around everything. See how it's at some of the pencils, but not all of the pencils. And really, really fun way to start drawing some objects on your desk, to really get your brain thinking in terms of shapes, because this is really, really important when you go out on location. So David says, starting with shapes is fun. Someone said, I haven't started, Tessa, but can't wait to try. Occasionally, says Joey. So I've got some watercolor pencils here. I might just draw a couple of lines and then we'll leave it because, oh, the time goes so quickly. So what am I going to do? Watercolor pencil. Maybe come and put a bit of yellow here. And my pencil, this is a problem. My pencil lead just busted. This one doesn't have, let's see if I can find another yellow. I've got all these pencils on my desk. I'm going to have to use the sharpener. It's a handy object. Okay, so I can come and put a bit of yellow through here. If I wanted to, so you can have fun doing different things. You know, through here, I just did a smudge. Why don't I just take away destroy my still life and use my pencils? There's something through there and through here maybe. And then I can come, so you can really, this type of approach, if you start with the one shape, I can now come and mix some green up. I'm a bit off the screen, but you get I could come and put some green through here. And then come and put some yellow. I'll use the yellow from this. I'm not going to worry about all the detail, so come and put a bit of yellow there. And now I'm going to come and some of that dark shape to this. So I can then come and put something through here, because that was just a one big blob. I come and build that up a little bit. Do all kinds of fun things with it in an experimental mode, right? Doesn't have to be this, amazing award-winning still life. It's all about playing. So I come through here, a bit of shadow through there and through here somewhere, and work it up from there. Okay, so have you got any questions about this before I go on to the next part? The shadows, lighting conditions, very different from me now. So I come through here, adjust a little bit more. I can see you'll say, oh, you missed that bit. Yeah, I did, because I was so focused on the big shapes through there a little bit. Okay, so amazing how adding the darks just bring it together. So even though it looked really flat and abstract, putting the darks on really makes it come to life. And just show you the one I did earlier as well, with slightly different composition. Okay, so very rough, but fun, and it also gets you to when you're focusing on the shapes, you start then really just focusing on getting your watercolor consistency correct as well. Something we touch on in foundations, but then go into much more detail within the watercolor class. Okay, Matt, I'm going to leave that over there, and then the next thing I want to start talking about how then do we take these skills and take them outside. Okay, so what I have, and I'm happy to come back and answer any questions, is I want to show you, I recently bought myself, just for a bit of fun, I bought myself a Lego set. Just back in my childhood. And this is the London Skyline set from Lego. And I thought it's just such a fantastic example of how we often see the world in terms of symbols when we go out sketching. So this is obviously, the Big Ben Tower Bridge. I'm not sure how to scale or out of scale they are, but obviously they're put together in this little composition, right? So when I put this on the desk, if I put this on the desk and sketch it, I am sketching it in a way that my object brain would normally see it, right? So this does look like, if I was to say how to draw Big Ben, I draw it kind of from this aerial diagonal type of view, right? But when we actually go on location, we don't see things from up top, but often we draw them like that. But instead, now see if I can do this. So if I just hold this here, this is equivalent to these photos I was trying to take, which is I'm probably more, if I was a Lego person that was about my eye height would be probably up here somewhere. But you can see that if you change your point of view and look at it from different angles, right, that we know, and our brain knows, that in this model, the Big Ben is taller than the tower of the Tower Bridge. But you can see, here we go, I'm going to my markup stage. You can see quite clearly that if I was to sketch it from this view, this first tower is significantly higher than Big Ben. Big Ben's much smaller further away. So this is where, when we go out on location, we have to turn off our object brain, because our object brain will want to make Big Ben up here, right? Where in fact it's not. And if I was able to take a photo as if I was a person down here, this tower would be much, much higher. Okay. Yeah, Lego. My nieces and nephews are talking about Lego all the time. This is very rewarding to actually build that. And I'm going to try and see if I can do something else. Anyway, we don't want to get down the track, but I thought it's just such a fantastic idea of, when we go out on location, we draw using the object brain, and this is a great representation of what our object brain is. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how I use edges and shapes on two of my favorite types of scenes. And this does not include Baroque buildings, which we all know, many of you know, I really love. Okay, so this is one of my favorite types of scenes. This is where I was on this week, not yesterday, day before, down at Lane Cove, one of my bush scenes. So this is a photo. I'm sitting on a rock next to my car. And if I was to draw that with an object brain, and I'm just for just this session, I just want to focus on the little bits that make up the picnic area, not so much the trees beyond. Okay, so if we talk about how we sketch these different elements using our object brain, can you see that? We go, oh, okay, there's a creek. There's a creek, you can't see, but there is. There's a creek and there's a bridge. So we cross the bridge, and then there's the first picnic table that sits here. And then there's a sign, there's another picnic table over here, there's a bit of bushy stuff in the middle, and then all the way back here. And in fact, because I really wanted to draw it all the way up here, but like I was running out of room. And then there's another picnic table up here, and then I come back, and then there's the sign, there's the tree, and then there's the barbecue. Okay, so here we go. Here's the barbecue. That's where we're gonna cook our sausages. And this is the table here that the kookaburra attacked me, thinking I had food. So that's how we see, and that's how our brain assesses the situation. But when we start looking at the edges and what we actually see, it's very different. So here's just a printout somewhere of my sketch, which we'll analyze in a minute. So that particular day, I was about to come down with a storm, so I only got the line drawing. So you can see straight away that my area of the picnic tables, etc., only occur in this part of the page, as opposed to the object brain, where I basically took the whole page up to get that far picnic table in. Okay, so there's a question I can just see. Do you sketch at least one or more times per day in your sketchbook? Yes, at Sunday I don't sketch, but Monday to Saturday I fill one double page spread, or sometimes two or three or four, during the day. So I am trying to document my day. So I can come back to that and show you more about that later on. So, but yes, every Monday to Friday, I come down in the afternoon to this area and go for a walk. Yesterday, I saw a goanna and an echidna in my walk. Okay, so let's just mark this up. Edges. What did I do? I've got so many sheets of paper. What did I do with them? Something's out of order. Okay. So, a little bit like the box. What is the box in this scene? Where is the part that I'm going to start? This bridge is a little bit tricky. Can you see this? Is this clear enough? Okay, so I'm going to just trace over. I think this picnic area is the one that is, it's a little bit more tricky, complicated than what I've drawn. This picnic table here is the easiest part to start. So I start there, and then I use that. So I would draw that part. In fact, do I want to do a thicker pen so you can see it? Okay, easier. So I draw that first, and then once I've drawn that, okay, this middle bit here, how does it go? It actually comes, it's almost in line with the table. Across there, and then this far picnic table, it's so small. It's like, oh, the roof is almost lines up with this, and this is actually going uphill, so it's, and then the table is there, and then the seat is there, and the ground is there. That's how small that picnic table is. This one here, the table part is just a little bit higher than this, and the bottom of it is about the height of the table. The tree starts, so I'm kind of doing all of this. The tree starts down here, and then I can't see the barbecue at all, because the top of that barbecue box is actually flat. And then I relate this top of this to, it's just like it almost lines up with that. And that is very different from these. Look at this. This is angled. Well, in fact, they're quite straight. And I can't even see the creek. I mean, you wouldn't even know there's a creek here, or a drain that runs through here. You can't even see it from here. And then once I've done those, I can then think, okay, the bridge is the tricky bit, the angles. Let's just slow down. Let's just really think about the angles, something we talk about more. It's actually, once again, it's fairly flat. This is going up a little bit, fairly flat. And then I put the verticals in. And then I might also think about some shapes. So next one, I've got another page here that I can show you some shapes. When I was sketching this, the areas that I was looking at shapes for was the concrete pad, and realizing how squashed it was. The actual shape of the bridge is like that. And also I think about this as a shape that I'm going to separate from the background. Maybe then the roof shape, I also turn my brain and I think about shapes. So even though I'm drawing, I'm thinking about shapes. And let's just have a look at my sketch to see how I went. You can see that I did get that in there somewhere. This kind of lines up. These line up. And then I'm not sure about this angle here. These angles might, they're okay. They're reasonable, but you can see through here that I did that. I actually adjusted the tree and did a few other things. And of course I haven't finished the sketch, but you can see how important it is, this idea of seeing the edges and really taking your time to turn off that object brain. Okay, so is this all going well? Okay, now the hour goes so quickly. So the last scene that I want to show, so Kamal's saying this is really helpful. Is this making sense to you? Are you someone that would have done something like that? Now, obviously, I'm trying to really push it out, but that idea that You find one element that you think is going to be fairly easy to sketch. Draw that first, and then put everything else in relationship to it and break it down as edges. Okay, last thing I have prepared, and then I can answer any questions. So get your questions ready. Okay, so you're following me. You can see how important these edges are. So this last thing I want to share with you is this is a street scene in Italy, in Asolo, one of my favorite towns, in the Veneto, where we kind of visited and sketched as part of the Palladian Odyssey. And I'd like to ask you a question about what you think the tricky bits in this scene are. When you're saying this seems complex to me, it makes me look forward through the group run through. Yes. So I am showing you something that we deal with in the end of the course. So this is like, weeks 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll be progressively building our ways up. But I want to show you, for those of you who've been sketching for a while and struggle with some elements of your urban sketching, you can see how going back to the core principles is what you need to do in order to just really break it down. My brain hops around so much, having to break things down to discrete elements really helps me make a complicated scene feel doable. The bird has landed. That's cool. I was one who often drew things from bird's eye view. We all have. That's the way our object, just think of the Lego set. We draw things like a Lego set. Okay, so we're now talking about Asolo. Okay, so where the building meets the ground. Yes, tricky, the sloping ground, the road going uphill, the perspective. Yes, getting the first line in the right pace on the page, drawing the street that's going uphill, how to portray that. Okay, good. So here's my kind of attempt. Arches on the left side look tricky. Yes. Okay, David, that's what I thought when I looked at this. Okay. And not going up to, okay, so this is my attempt at trying to draw the object brain type, which was basically things not making it hard to see the edges, and particularly this side. I think this side here, trying to work out where the edges are going so you can see it. I was going, oh, crazy stuff. Is this going uphill well enough? The crossing, getting these arches in, drawing the flag before you've actually worked out how the flag goes. Those of you who know me know I'm notorious. I never even see the flags because I'm so focused on the building. The dark square at the end of the road, which is this bit here. Okay, drawing uphill. Okay, so how the roof meets the wall. Yes. So this bit here or this bit here. Okay, good. So we don't have time for me to do another demo, but this is something I can actually do inside the group run through in the live stream. So let's just have a look at edges, what we think are the major edges, and like the Lane Cove, the bush scene, what's the easy thing? So one of the reasons why I love this particular scene so much is that I have 3 overlapping shapes. It's not just like a tunnel vision. It's not like this on both sides. We actually have 3 buildings. They're not actually parallel. So this is, when I look at this, I think, oh, okay, so the main thing is that I've got a shape here. So it's these edges. Did anyone mention the cars? There are some cars there, but so there's some cars. So the fact that I've got these 3 shapes that overlap, and I feel as if I draw them, and then there's also this thing here. So once again, I'm ignoring the flag, and it's really hard to see what's happening down there, but there's something there. And all of a sudden I go, okay, if I can draw those shapes first, then the road is sorting itself out. Okay, I don't need to be worried about the road because I draw these, and then look, we've got road. I mean, I'm supposed to be talking about edges, but I've jumped. Okay, so these are kind of like shapes. these are like shapes, and now all of a sudden I can see, oh, okay, I don't need to worry about the road going uphill. I just need to worry about drawing its shape, and then that will be fine. Okay, so I just need to really concentrate on that shape. Maybe I'll draw it on another page. Look at this. I mean, look, it's so much easier to mark up a photo. I know. Okay, and so forth. Okay, but that's going through there. Okay, so this is what I did yesterday. So I started with the shapes. So I started with one shape, this first shape here. And because the way I'm going to be able to tell one shape from the other is I do actually have to draw these windows in. So these windows are going to be an indicator for me. So I painted that shape with holes for the windows and the arch, because that then is going to be my reference point for making these shapes and these windows come out from that. Okay, so we can see that. Can we see on the screen that I painted that shape and I was thinking about this window, and then that next shape started at this point in that window, and then this here started near the archway, which is kind of there. So I ignored the ivy, the growy stuff there, and then from that I then was able to draw this like that. Whether I was actually I wasn't actually concentrating on the road at all, and I completely ignored this side bit because that's the hard bit, and maybe even I don't need to draw as much of it if I focus on this. And so then I came, and then the next one is I then focused on the sky shape. So this is another shape that's really fun to do, is to focus on the sky, and the sky might help you to see, wow, that roof there is almost vertical. So the sky can sometimes help you see some tricky angles if you then focus your mind on the sky shape. So I then came and did a sky shape. It's not the most beautiful sky wash in the world, but that's okay because I'm focusing on shapes. And then I also then just added the road in just focusing on that road shape. And then once that was dry, I then came through and finished the sketch off very, very quickly and easily with some more paint. Added the cars, I mean, I could still do some more to it, but that is the overall. So this now is showing you how that what we said was really basic in the beginning of just, all these things you go, yeah, I know that. But this is the way that we then apply it to sketching on location. So we've come to the hour. I want to keep going for another 15, 20 minutes to answer all your questions about the group run through and the foundations course, if you have any of those questions. So the number one question that we get asked, so you can ask me any questions about what I've done, shown you today, also just general questions as well. The first number one question that we get asked all the time is, I signed up for foundations in the past. Can I be part of a group run through? And yes, you can. So if you bought foundations at any time, even if you're part of the very, very original group, just go into the classroom and the instructions. There's a big blue button there. If you go to foundations via my courses and sign up, and then you'll get emails each week. So the group run through, so the foundations course is like a self-paced course. You can work through it at whenever you want, and you have access to all the lessons as soon as you sign up. But the idea behind a group run through is that we all work through it together, because SketchingNow community is just so incredible. They all comment on your work. We're all working on it together. And so I set up weekly emails to prompt you to move on to the next section, and also do a bonus live stream just like this one, with the addition of like reviewing work from the classroom, having more questions. We chat a lot more. And and that's really what the group run through. It starts on the 5th of January 2022 and goes for 12 weeks. And because of the number of courses that I have and the fact that most of these group run throughs run for 3 months, I really only do a group run through once every 2 years. So this is a big deal and it's a big event. You can see that Chantel's actually posting some links into the chat. There's also links in the description below. I could definitely on this particular scene, I could definitely draw in with ink over as well. I could draw with ink at this. So you can see I'm drawing this section with ink over. I could easily come in and draw some more, draw the windows. I should actually look at the photo to make sure if the shutters are open or not. I like drawing, if I'm going to mix ink and wash, I like doing it early, not later, because that way my ink is like sandwiched between a couple of watercolor washes rather than just looking like it's drawn over the top. Okay, so there's a question here from Terry about the Edges course. So the Edges course picks up one theme, which is balancing line and color, and I've actually got a bit of an outline which I will go through now as well, just to give you an idea of what's in the course. So the Edges course takes up the idea of how do we decide what to do in ink and what to do in watercolor, and takes those and expands them in lots of fun ways, and really it's got a lot of experimental fun ways of using ink and wash. We look at more complex scenes. So the bush scene that I just showed you from Lane Cove, there's a whole lesson on sketching landscapes. There's things on sketching food, starting with the darks. A lot of stuff about that. So let me just quickly do a run through. This is just a very quick run through of what's inside the course, and keep asking questions as well. Is there a PDF file for the audio? Inside the classroom, there are transcripts for all of the videos inside the classroom, as well as a full printout of. There's also a 100-page or more PDF file summarizing the entire course. So through here, that's all of the course. I've got a big folder for it. So what we look at 12 weeks, just really quick overview. The first week we look at knowing our materials and loving them, and really rather than just go and buy more stuff over and over again, really test what you've got currently in your kit and work out why. So I show you how to test your supplies. In lesson 2, that's when we really get into depth with feeling edges. So blind contours, continuous line contours, and more experimental versions as well. And as I've gone through the course over the years, I have added quite a lot. The course is like more than doubled in size, with more advanced ways of using these concepts in my own work. Lesson 3, then we look at abstracting shapes. So this is where we work through the different exercises about similar shapes, looking for shadow shapes, doing trees, even capturing light through focusing on shapes. Lesson 4 is volumes, which is looking for the underlying structure, and this is something that I then expand a lot more in the buildings course, particularly. But something as simple as drawing a pile of books turns out to be quite tricky. I've also got lots of examples from my own work over the years as well using these, so you can see how comprehensive these concepts are. Lesson 5, this is then when we start looking at setup, like pencil, how to actually sight measure. So this is another skill that I find a lot of people have never really put the time in to develop. So that's where we really focus on that, all kinds of things. And then lesson 6 is then this idea of doing the absolute minimum that we need, maybe using colored pencil, maybe starting with paint first, and or no setup at all, which some of you were saying about just going straight with ink. There is a link in the description for this outline as well, so you can actually read this in more detail. Lesson 7 is when we put it all together and have a kind of a catch-up week. So that means this week I do a lot of teacup sketches. So there's teacup demos. In those of you who's like, I want to see a teacup demo, there are a few in there. Then a balancing line and color. This is then when we think about how much to draw in ink versus paint, whether to use the watercolor pencil or not, or just paint, direct watercolor. So this is then the lesson that really was the basis for the expansion in the Edges course. And then lesson 9, we go out on location, and so talk about how to compose a view. That's right. Yes, compose a view, get it on the page. I introduced the idea of using a viewfinder, which is pretty tricky but very useful out on location. And then in lesson 10, so I'm going through this really quickly, but you can see there's a lot in the course. We then think about how to find a focus, a story, how to use thumbnails for doing it, lots of on location sketching. And then in lesson 11 is when I talk about my own personal preference of sketching, which is to start with that focus and to let the sketch evolve spontaneous out from that. And then the last week is where I have done reviews of people's work. But I will do something like that again in the group run through, but during the whole 12 weeks, I will be reviewing your work in the classroom. Yes, we can see Chantal's just put the outline. Look, so any other questions, materials, people? There is a link to materials as well there. As I said, I use these 6 colors inside the course, and also a round brush. There's no need to rush out and get exactly my colors. So I use, I think I use this one, which is an 8. I had a piece of paper, but this, a size 8, but you can use whatever brushes that you want. Yes, all of the live stream replays are available within the classroom, and we alternate the time difference so that one week will suit the Americas and one week will suit the Europeans. But there are people that get up at 4 a.m. and stay up past midnight because I don't want to miss out. And we always have so much fun, lots of chat, lots of discussion in those live streams. And if you get behind doing the exercises, the live streams are a really important part of keeping motivated and just keeping up with what we're doing. So I highly recommend that you do work through the class at the time of the live stream. The foundation course does go slowly. So I've covered a lot today. So we spend a week on each of these exercises. So there is a lot in the course for a beginner. Many beginners have gone through the class. If you feel like you need to go a slower pace, it's there to just slow down if you feel like you need to. So yeah, if there's any beginners in the class that have done the course and benefited from it, please let your response in the chat would be really, really helpful. What else have we got? I also have bundles available so that you can work through Foundations, Watercolor, and Sketchbook Design. It's called Just Sketch Your Life. They're the 3 beginner courses that I think are the core courses. And I will be going through Watercolor again next year as well. So that's a really good time. You don't need to see this anymore. Stephanie says Foundations is perfect for beginners. It's how I started sketching. And yes, Stephanie is doing amazing work now as well. Susan, Incredible course, treasure of information. So much fun to follow, amazing. Yeah, well, it's great to hear your, as you said, your feedback is golden for each other. And what else do I have here? Questions. Was there something else that I was going to mention? Link to materials is in the description below. And I'm going to be going through the course with everyone else. I absolutely love revisiting. I do the exercises or my own version of the exercises and try and find new ways uh, of applying these principles, because as you saw in the second half of of my demos, those complex scenes, they're not easy scenes, but yet I use those core basic things. So if you think a scene is difficult, go back to edges and shapes. Will there be a link to this class on your website? Yes, the class very top link in this YouTube video, also on my blog as well. What can a dagger brush do that a fine tip can't do? The main thing with the dagger brush is the fact that I can use it more as a flat, like I can get bigger, broader strokes and it's more expressive. But a round brush is still completely fine. And as I said, I use the round brush in the course when I filmed it, and I will be using a round brush again when we go back through it. So there's no need to rush out and get a dagger brush. Just the dagger brush just suits the expressive lines, just relates very well to the way that I work. Vicky says, I'm excited to start this as a beginner. Yes, that's good. How do we show your work online? So the Sketching Now classroom is a custom design classroom that I have worked where for every exercise there's a gallery where you can upload your work. You can also click through to people's work and see all of their work together. So we all look at each other's work inside the classroom. There's no need for Facebook or any other signing up for any other app. It's all within the Sketching Now classroom. And then you comment on each other, and then I go through the classroom each week as well, looking at everyone's work in the classroom, and then we'll pick out one or two, a pile to talk about or some themes to talk about, so that we have the benefit of what's happening in the classroom I will talk about in the weekly live stream. So it's a very, very interactive way of going through an online class. So you're not just there to work on your own, you're there as part of a group. And I tell you what, this group, I mean, seriously, these people that do these courses, that come on the live streams, that they spend hours commenting on each other's works, they're just the most incredible group. So this is like a big virtual hug to all of the particularly the buildings people at the moment. It's just absolutely so much fun. Any last minute questions before? Okay, so we always share, but never compare. That's right, Susie. Thank you for reminding that. So we can all learn from each other. We have very experienced, watercolor teachers in the class, as well as people that are just starting. But we all learn together, and we all encourage each other. And every sketch that you do has something special about it, and it has that memory. And that's why, I try and sketch, every day, these 6 days a week. I keep a record of my life, because then the motivation for sketching is I want to document my life. Whether the sketch is wonderful or not doesn't matter, but it is a moment in time. MC's had such a great experience in Mrs. courses. Thank you. And Chantal was amazing as well. Yes, always helps. Thank you so much for all your kind words. Bobby, July 15 was my first exposure to this course. Yes, it's still going strong. Yes, you can delete it. You can remove your work at any time. You have access to your gallery. You can send us an email using the contact form if you've got any specific technical questions like that. Mary says everyone is so nice in the classroom. Yes, totally. It was amazing. Like Mary, I remember your comments at the beginning of buildings, and to see what you're doing now is so incredible. Hannah, oh, it's just so nice to see you all here. And I really know a lot of you by name. I know your work, and I just love hanging out with you all. So thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this live demo. I hope that you have found some things that you can apply to your work straight away. But otherwise, look, I would really love to see you inside the group run through starting on the 5th of January 2022. If you're watching this review a replay afterwards, you can join Foundations at any time and work through your own pace. But other than that, everyone, thank you so much again for being part of this. Have a wonderful holiday season, and any extra questions, use the contact form or info@sketchingnow.com. That would be great. Thank you. Stay safe. Have a wonderful holiday season. See you in January. Bye.